The amber glow of oil lamps cast long shadows across the Red Spur Saloon on a dusty Tuesday evening in 1887. Sarah wiped down the mahogany bar for what felt like the 100th time that night, her movements mechanical and weary. Her red dress, once vibrant and full of promise, now hung on her frame like a costume she no longer believed in. At 28, she felt ancient, worn down by years of side-eye glances, crude remarks, and the invisible weight of a past she couldn't escape. "Sarah, get me another whiskey," barked Buck Henderson from the corner table, his voice slurred and aggressive. He didn't look at her when he spoke. None of them did anymore. They looked through her, past her, as if her very existence was a nuisance to be tolerated only because she served drinks. She nodded silently and poured the amber liquid into a glass with the precision of someone who had done this 10,000 times before. Her hands were steady, but her eyes betrayed her exhaustion. There were calluses on her palms from scrubbing tables, and her nails were chipped from years of hard work. She set the glass down without a word, knowing that speaking would only invite more mockery. That's when the doors swung open. The wind carried a cloud of dust and the scent of sage and leather. A man entered, tall, broad-shouldered, with the kind of weathered face that told stories of the open range. But it wasn't his build that caught everyone's attention. It was the way he carried himself, with a quiet confidence that seemed to fill the entire room. His dark hair was swept back from his forehead, and his eyes, a piercing gray-blue, swept across the saloon with deliberate purpose. His name was Thomas Garrett, though Sarah didn't know that yet. He was a rancher from the northern territories, a man who had spent the last 15 years building a successful cattle operation in near total solitude. He had come to town for supplies and a hot meal, nothing more. Thomas moved to the bar, and Sarah felt her heart quicken without understanding why. There was something different about him, something genuine in the way his gaze lingered on her face for a moment longer than necessary. It wasn't the look of a man sizing up merchandise. It was the look of someone actually seeing her. "Whiskey," he said simply, "and whatever food you have that's actually worth eating." Sarah poured with practiced efficiency. "We've got beef stew tonight. Fresh bread. That'll do fine." As she turned to relay the order to the kitchen, she felt his eyes on her, not in the way the other men stared, not with desire or contempt, but with a kind of quiet curiosity. When she returned with his drink, he was watching the room, but something about his posture suggested he was taking it all in, understanding it at a deeper level than surface value. The evening wore on, and Thomas remained at the bar, nursing his whiskey slowly. He didn't join the other men in their boisterous games of poker. He didn't call for Sarah in crude tones or make lewd suggestions. He simply sat, occasionally glancing her way, and it made her profoundly uncomfortable in a way she couldn't quite name. Discomfort born of unfamiliarity. Discomfort born of hope. Around midnight, the saloon began to empty. The oil lamps flickered as drunken patrons stumbled toward the doors. Buck Henderson, now thoroughly intoxicated, knocked over his glass and swore loudly, his eyes landing on Sarah with a malicious glint. "You're worthless, you know that," he sneered. "Ain't no decent man gonna want damaged goods like you. You're lucky anyone notices you at all." Sarah felt the familiar sting of shame crawl up her neck. She'd heard variations of this 100 times. She turned away, shoulders hunched, trying to make herself small. "That's enough." Thomas's voice cut through the din like a knife. He rose from his stool, his height suddenly apparent, easily 6 feet 3 or 4 inches. He moved toward Buck with deliberateness that made the drunk man's face go pale. "The lady asked you to stop, and you didn't," Thomas said quietly. "Now I'm asking you to leave. I ain't taking orders from—" "You are tonight," Thomas interrupted. His hand rested on the Colt at his hip, not threateningly, just a statement of fact. "And if you're smart, you'll do it now." Buck scrambled off his stool, nearly tripping over his own feet in his haste to exit. Thomas watched him go, then slowly turned back to the bar. The other remaining patrons, sensing the shift in the room's power dynamic, quickly finished their drinks and disappeared into the night. Suddenly, Sarah and Thomas were alone. She busied herself wiping glasses, her hands trembling slightly. She could feel him watching her, and the silence stretched between them like a living thing. "What's your name?" he asked. "Sarah." She replied quietly, not meeting his eyes. "Sarah." He said it like he was tasting it, considering it, honoring it. "I'm Thomas. Thomas Garrett." She nodded, unsure what else to do. "How long have you worked here?" he asked. 7 years, she said. Since I had nowhere else to go." Thomas was quiet for a moment. "You got family?" The question hit her like a physical blow. "Not anymore. I made choices that cost me that privilege." She finally looked at him, expecting judgment. Instead, she saw something that broke her heart in the best possible way. Understanding. Not condemnation. Not pity. Just understanding. "I didn't come to this territory by choice either," Thomas said. "I came because I needed to disappear from my old life. Took me years to realize I wasn't running away anymore. I was running toward something. Toward a life where I could be myself without apology." Sarah felt tears prickling her eyes. "It doesn't work that way for people like me." "Why not?" he asked simply. She laughed, a bitter, broken sound. "Because people see what they decided I am. They won't look past it." "Then find people worth looking," Thomas said. He pulled out a worn leather pouch and set enough coins on the bar to cover his meal and drink, plus extra. "I've got a ranch about 40 miles north. Good land, decent house, and more work than I can handle alone. If you ever want a different choice, you come find me. Name's Garrett Ranch. Everyone in town will know it." He turned to leave, then paused at the door. "Sarah, you're not the girl they think you are. I saw that the moment I walked through that door." After he left, Sarah stood frozen, staring at the coins on the bar. For the first time in 7 years, someone had seen her, truly seen her. And the impossible had happened. He had walked away, but not because of what everyone else had told him. He had given her something more valuable than any proposition, a choice, an escape route, a possibility. It took her 3 days to decide. 3 days of staring at those coins, of lying awake at night, of wondering if he was serious or if it had been a moment of drunken fancy on his part. But on the morning of the 4th day, Sarah packed her few belongings into a cloth satchel and asked the stable boy where Garrett Ranch lay. When she arrived, dusty and exhausted from her journey, Thomas was mending a section of fence. He looked up, and a slow smile spread across his weathered face. Without a word, he set down his tools and walked toward her. "I wasn't sure you'd come," he said. "Neither was I," Sarah replied. "But you were the first person in a long time who didn't make me feel like a broken thing." Thomas extended his hand, and Sarah took it. His grip was strong and steady. "Welcome home," he said. And standing there in the shadow of the ranch house, with a vast prairie stretching out before them, Sarah finally understood what it meant to be seen, to be chosen, to be given a second chance by someone who believed in the person you could become. The past didn't disappear overnight, but for the first time, it no longer defined her future.